When Lando Norris, the reigning Formula One world champion, tells the media that his team is, quote, not very close to Ferrari, you pay attention. When Max Verstappen finishes over a second behind in testing and starts calling the new car's Formula E on steroids, you know something has rattled him. And when George Russell openly speculates about your turbocharger size on camera, you know the entire paddock is trying to figure out how you did it. Ferrari just put the fear of God into every team on the grid, and the season has not even started yet. On the final day of Bahrain testing, Charles Leclerc posted a 131, 992, 9/10 faster than Norris, over a full second clear of Verstappen. He was the only driver all week to break the 132 barrier, and he did it while wrestling a car that snapped and slid through the corners of the Sakhir circuit like it was trying to throw him off. But that lap time is only part of the story. What makes this result so fascinating is not just how fast the Ferrari SF-26 went, it is what Ferrari sacrificed to build it, the radical technology hiding inside it, and the reactions from every rival team principal and engineer who watched it happen from the Bahrain pit wall. So let us break down exactly what is going on. First, the raw numbers, because in Formula One the stopwatch does not lie, even if everything around it does. Leclerc's 131. 992 came during the afternoon session of the final test day on a set of C4 compound tires. For context, Norris was the second fastest driver at a 132. 871. That is a gap of 0.879 of a second. Verstappen was third at a 133. 109 over a full second behind. Russell slotted in fourth, a full 1.2 seconds off the pace, and the rest of the field was scattered even further back. Now, the immediate counter-argument from the skeptics is obvious. This is testing. Fuel loads vary, tire compounds differ, engine modes are all over the place. And that is a fair point. Leclerc used C4 tires for his fastest lap, while several competitors set their best times on harder C3 compounds. The typical performance difference between those two compounds is somewhere around 3 to 5/10 of a second per step. But even if you account for that tire advantage, Leclerc's margin remains substantial. You do not accidentally end up 9/10 ahead of a world champion. And it was not just the single lap pace that raised eyebrows in the Bahrain paddock. There was a moment earlier in the afternoon when Russell attempted an overtake on Pierre Gasly's Alpine into turn 1. Gasly held his position and Russell appeared to run out of energy coming out of the chicane and up toward turn 4. It was a fascinating preview of how wheel-to-wheel combat might look with these new hybrid systems, where energy management mid-battle becomes as important as raw bravery. But while Russell was scrapping with an Alpine, Leclerc was quietly demolishing the timing screens. Leclerc completed 132 laps on that final day alone, including a full race simulation run during the hottest part of the afternoon, in 35-degree heat. That race sim pace was described by multiple journalists trackside as not far off the best long-run data posted by any team all week. So this was not a case of bolting on soft tires, doing one glory run and parking the car. Leclerc was fast, consistent, and relentless from morning to evening. But the single-lap headline does not capture the full trajectory of what Ferrari showed across both test weeks in Bahrain. During the first test, Leclerc posted a cautious 134.273. By the second test, he was into the 133.6 range. And then on that final afternoon, he dropped into the 131s. That is a systematic, deliberate unlocking of performance across 6 days. Not a fluke or a one-off glory run, but a team methodically working through its program and turning the wick up at the end. Which brings us to the reactions from the rest of the grid, because the way rival teams responded tells you far more than any lap time sheet. Lando Norris was the most candid. Standing in the McLaren garage after the session, he told journalists, "At the moment, we are not very close to Ferrari. We are not bad, but we are not fast enough." That alone should tell you something. Norris does not tend to concede ground easily, but then he added something even more revealing. He pointed out that Ferrari appears to have a deployment advantage, the way the hybrid system delivers its electrical energy through the lap. And as Norris put it, when someone just has a deployment advantage, that is just a beautiful bit of lap time to have in your pocket. Without trying, you can just go quicker. Think about what that means. Norris is not saying Ferrari's drivers are braver or their setup is better. He is saying the car itself has a fundamental engineering edge that produces lap time without the driver needing to do anything special. That is the kind of advantage that does not disappear from one race to the next. Verstappen, meanwhile, took a different approach. Rather than directly addressing pace, he redirected his frustration at the new car formula itself, calling the experience of driving these machines deeply unsatisfying. A lot of what you do as a driver in terms of inputs has a massive effect on the energy side of things, he said. For me, that is just not Formula One. He doubled down on his earlier characterization of these cars as Formula E on steroids. But the subtext was hard to miss. Verstappen finished over a second behind Leclerc on the same day, and his Red Bull technical director Pierre Wache openly admitted, "We are not the benchmark. We clearly see the top three teams, Ferrari, Mercedes, and McLaren, are in front of us." When your own technical director publicly names three teams ahead of you before the season even starts, that is not sandbagging. That is a team being honest about where they stand. And then there was George Russell, who gave away one of the most interesting technical clues of the entire test. Speaking to media, Russell openly speculated that Ferrari seems to be able to run higher gears than other manufacturers, and that this probably suggests they have a smaller turbocharger. Now, drivers do not usually go on record guessing at rival engine specifications. The fact that Russell felt comfortable saying this tells you that Mercedes has been studying Ferrari's data very carefully and is trying to understand how Leclerc was generating that kind of performance. So what exactly is inside the Ferrari SF-26 that has the entire paddock talking? There are three specific innovations that set this car apart, and each one feeds into the others in a way that makes the whole package extremely difficult for rivals to replicate. The first and most visible innovation is the rear wing. Every team on the 2006 grid runs active aerodynamics. The rear wing flap opens on straights to reduce drag and closes in corners to maximize downforce. But Ferrari took this concept and pushed it to an extreme that nobody else attempted. Their upper rear wing element does not just open flat, it rotates 225 degrees, essentially flipping almost completely upside down so that the convex surface faces skyward like an aircraft wing in reverse. The effect is dramatic. In straight line mode, the wing creates an aerodynamic stall that slashes drag far more aggressively than any conventional system on the grid. Lewis Hamilton reportedly gained around 10 km/h on the Bahrain straights when the wing deployed compared to running in high downforce mode. Technical simulations showed that the wing achieves roughly a 75% drop in rear wing downforce when fully deployed, which translates directly into straight-line speed. And the FIA has already confirmed it is legal. Technical Director Nicolas Tambazis stated that the FIA has, quote, "generally speaking encouraged solutions that reduce drag. But here is why rivals cannot simply copy this design from Melbourne. Ferrari did not just bolt this wing onto an existing car. They designed the entire rear end around it. The differential is positioned the maximum 6 centimeters rearward of the rear axle line, creating space for extended diffuser bodywork and a flow-turning device powered by the exhaust. The rotating wing, the diffuser, the exhaust device, they all work together as one integrated system. You cannot copy one piece without redesigning everything behind the gearbox." The second innovation is arguably even more significant, and it is hidden deep inside the power unit.